And welcome to another Round the Rotary podcast with me, your host, JP Warren. And before we kicked off, we got to say that Round the Rotary podcast is brought to you by Capital Petroleum Consultants. CPC specializes in project engineering and well site supervision in all disciplines of the oil and gas industry. Contact us through www.capitalpetroleumconsultants.com to see what CPC can do for you today. And thank you everyone out there for joining us today on another Round the Rotary podcast. Appreciate you tuning in. We know there's a lot of podcasts out there, but thanks for stopping by here. And you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Round the Rotary _ JP Warren. And, like, subscribe, chime in, leave a review, do what you got to do. We appreciate it. And with us in the studio today, we got a buddy of mine, old school buddy of mine, actually. We met, when did we meet?
I don't know, maybe 2012.
2012. That's when I first got into sales, is 2012.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. So we have Alex Goodwin, the director of sales and marketing at Vertice Oil Tools, and it's spelled Vertice, Vertice, but it's Vertice.
Yeah, we pronounce it Vertice, but
I like that. It's, as I said before, it's Euro. I dig that. You know what I mean? It sounds sophisticated. Anyway, man, thanks for coming in today. We're recording this March 2nd, 2021. It'll probably be released probably end of March. And what else? What's big news has happened? I don't know. It's been a shitstorm, so we don't have any big news right now. Oil's at what, 62 right now?
Or just above 60, I think.
Okay, just above 60. Yeah. That'll change by tomorrow easily, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's always up and down, but it's looking better. So.
So Alex, get us kicked off, man. Tell us about yourself. Tell us. Let's go. Give us your background. When did you get in the oil field? Where are you from?
Yeah, so I got in the oil field in 2011. Grew up in Louisiana.
Where in Louisiana?
A small town called Independence, Louisiana.
Okay.
And everybody thinks it's up north Louisiana, but it's about an hour north of New Orleans.
God, they're so wrong.
Yeah, they're so wrong. I think it's because the Independence Bowl, people get confused. So I normally have to correct them when I tell them where I'm from. And it's a small town, a couple thousand, like 2,000 people.
Okay.
So it's real small. But grew up there. Went to LSU.
First generation oil field?
First generation oil field, yeah. I mean, my dad was in more petrochemical side, so really, like most people that grew up in my town, they if they went to college, or even if they didn't go to college, they ended up in like working in chemical plants and refineries. That was kind of the thing in my hometown for the most part. And my dad kind of followed that track as well and did the chemical plants, refineries. I didn't know anything about the oil field actually. So my brother, I have a twin brother. I don't know if you probably never met him. You may have seen him somewhere and was totally confused.
Well, I was probably shooting the shit with him. And next thing, wait, are y'all like identical?
Yeah, we're identical. Yeah.
Did y'all ever did him feel like? Did you ever do he feel like if you don't want to date
like a stand-in?
Yeah, like you don't want to go on a date with a girl. You're like, hey, look, all right, what's his name?
Emil,
you gotta go with me. I can't take this girl to another movie.
I can't say we've done that exactly like that, but we've kind of pulled some pranks and jokes. What has
been one of the best pranks y'all pulled? This is like a power that I wish I had. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, it's been a long time since we pulled like a legit prank, but I mean, switching classes with teachers. We didn't get in trouble in high school and middle school too much, but I do remember the times that I would do something that would, get suspended or get in detention or those type of things. A lot of times I get out of it just because I don't know which one you are, so I can't do anything. So it's like, all right, well, cool, so kind of use that.
That's a good move.
Yeah, it was a really good move, But
so what's your brother do?
So he's oil field as well. So he's the one that actually got me in the oil field. So he did petroleum engineering. I went the business route. So we kind of diverged at that point in college. He got out of school before I did and started working up in Colorado for Anadarko. And when I was coming out, he was like, oh man, you need to look at oil field. He gave me a list of these companies doing like oil field sales and things like that. And I was like, yeah,
marketing.
So I did marketing was my undergrad.
Okay.
And then I actually went back and did MBA as well. But anyways, he's kind of what steered me that way. And this was, obviously 2011, things were kind of booming, things were going crazy. So it was pretty easy to get on the oil field. They're paying pretty well. So I was like, hell yes, let's do this. So he's the one that kind of steered me into the oil field. And, both of us didn't know anything about the oil field, prior to him for college because he studied it, and then for me prior to 2011.
But that's the thing, though. I mean, I graduated marketing too, got my master's as well. I had no idea about the oil field.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
So once you get in, it's kind of one of those things like this is because graduate marketing, you're like, oh, I'm gonna work, at this creative firm with a suit.
Advertising
pitch,
or whatever.
I'm gonna pitch it. Yeah, a lot of pitches, but it's not like that at all.
No.
Okay.
Not even close. So yeah, so he's the one that after LSU I got into oilfield via him, and it's really funny being both in oil and gas, and we never worked in the same city, but kind of cross pollinated. I would go to Louisiana for things, go to New Orleans, and he's with Chevron over there, and a lot of mistaken identities being in the same industry, and a lot of times there's only been a few times where we're like in the same place at the same event, and when that happens, it's a big hoot. Like people are just kind of totally like confused what's going on. So even around Houston, like I've had like strangers come up and hug me that I've never met before, but they worked with my brother or whatever. And he's had the same thing, and we kind of go with it until it gets kind of weird,
Until it gets awkward.
Yeah.
But that's got to be weird. Like where's that point in the conversation to shut it down?
Yeah.
Just let it ride.
I mean, you could definitely kind of mess with people. What I used to do is because a lot, he's a drilling engineer, so a lot of oilfield salesmen
I would award work.
Yeah. I used to say, oh man, what happened? I'd be like, what happened to that pipe you guys were supposed to send me last week? And then they'd kind of watch them kind of squirm and squeal a little bit, and then they're like, man, I'm just messing with you.
Hey, we're picking up 5 rigs. I want you to call me. If I don't answer, keep calling me.
I'm 12 o'clock at night. I'm working nights. Call me.
That shows dedication.
Exactly.
And if you want the work, dedicate.
That's actually a good move. I might have to use that. Coming up. Yeah.
Wait till it pisses you off, then use that.
Yeah, exactly. So I did LSU. Came out and I started working with Weatherford at the time.
Okay.
Kind of in their sales group, kind of a training role, doing some field work, sales. Kind of the thing about oilfield service is no matter what you're doing, you kind of need to know the field level. So I kind of jumped in, kind of started doing some field stuff, just going on a few jobs, learning equipment, learning tools, and all that. And I started out in the like fishing tools product line, which, man, to be in fishing tools, you kind of have to know a lot of stuff, and it's kind of an art, sometimes more than the science. So it was an interesting kind of start to the oil field.
I mean, was that demotivating? I mean, just like there's so much to know. I mean, this is not in your wheelhouse. Like you did marketing, and the next thing you know, you're doing fishing tools. Is one of the most complex things.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it was demotivating, but it was definitely kind of a big hurdle.
Yeah.
And kind of on the sales side for fishing, a lot of the salesmen, especially 2011, were kind of 30-year guys, had all these knew their stuff. They had all these relationships, and nothing against, fishing. I mean, it is a very kind of valuable skill set. You have to be able to do it, and you have to rely on companies to do that. But I quickly kind of, figured out that wasn't kind of the kind of the niche for me, if you will. Just because the amount of time is every fishing job is different, the amount of time you got to be in the field to kind of figure it out.
So when did you kind of make that kind of decision? How long were you in?
Probably 6 to 9 months in. And it wasn't to be honest, I made that decision in my head, but I was kind of kept going with it, see if things would get better. But from there, I actually kind of moved into a different product line, which is kind of a more like new technology product line role that I really enjoyed and really liked. So it was actually using radio frequency to activate downhole tools.
Okay.
And it was a small product line within Weatherford. I kind of got hooked up with my former boss, a guy by the name of Eddie Valverde, great guy, great boss. And it was the cool thing about it, being a Weatherford, being a big company, it was this core group of just a few guys running this new product line. And I kind of got hooked up with those guys.
And you're new into this.
Yeah, I'm new. Yeah. I'm new oil field, so I'm not, I'm kind of trying to figure things out. And then I ended up, kind of selling a job for it, and then I just kind of jumped in both feet, like this is it.
How'd that feel?
It was good because it's like, I mean, coming from first generation oil field, coming from a non-technical background, some of the stuff that you're doing downhole is like it's amazing. It's kind of some of the innovations and stuff that they've done over the past say 15 years, 20 years or so. It's kind of like on the level of like NASA type stuff if you think about it, operating downhole tools at very like high temperatures, high pressure conditions. So So it was really cool. I really enjoyed kind of the new technology angle.
Okay.
And then, of course, new technologies. It's a lot easier to kind of get in front of customers and talk to them about how you can save them money.
Because
on all kind of things.
you have a segue to get in there.
Yeah,
There's a reason for you to see me.
Yeah, exactly. And on the fishing side, it was like, I don't want to deal with you. You spent 6 months in the field. What do you know?
Yeah.
I got somebody over here that's been.
I got Roughneck Jerry who's done it for 35 years
Exactly.
that I know.
Exactly. So it was a much easier path to kind of get involved with customers and kind of sell like a solution, if you will. So I really enjoyed it, and I jumped in. I spent a lot of time offshore running these tools. I mean, I think you did some offshore work as well. I mean, offshore, I loved it, man.
Dude, I loved it too, man. Like it was a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. I mean, the guys out there and the guys and girls out there, like you meet, they become like your family out there.
And just a lot of time.
It's just good banter, good bullshit, good food, unhealthy food, but good food.
Food is great.
The best sleep out there.
Yeah. So my first time ever offshore, it was supposed to be like maybe you go out there like a week or whatever. I spent 34 days offshore, and I was just like, and you think after that you'd be like burnt out and done. I loved it. I couldn't wait to get back. The reason why I liked it. I mean, some people say I couldn't be offshore that long and not have 2 feet on the ground and be able to drive to the store, with those type of things if you need to. I kind of liked it because, I mean, if you think about the scale of everything going on that rig, that platform, in the middle of the ocean, I think this job was like almost 100 miles out, and you're just like, holy crap!
Yeah. Coming
from first generation oil field to somebody that just barely knew what a rig was at that time. It was something like
it's exciting.
I almost fell in love with it. Really, I was just like, man, this offshore life is incredible. So I kind of jumped in and just kind of like a sponge, try to learn everything I could and whatnot. And just kind of ran with it from there. And being in like a small group within a big company, it really afforded me a lot of paths to kind of I guess get more responsibility and do things that I normally wouldn't in like a bigger group.
Like a weather first number, something like that. So how did your boss? I mean, you mentioned your boss real briefly. I mean, I'm sure he's been at Weatherford for quite some time, and all of a sudden you're coming in. So how did he kind of be a mentor role for you, and kind of what did he do to kind of to steer you in that direction or give you enough rope to hang yourself or whatever? What was it?
Well, so the good thing is, so my old boss Eddie, he actually came up through the oil field kind of sales route, but he ended up kind of being a product line manager, global product line manager, those type of things. And I think he kind of knew kind of like that how important sales was and how important these things were, and so he kind of focused on me, and just at that time it was busy, so it was kind of like, hey, you need to get it done, and we just need to keep going with everything we got. With all the jobs coming in, different types of things. It was kind of like trial by fire. Like figure it out, just go. And versus like, it definitely was a good mentor, but we weren't like sitting in a training room all day and
learning. Ask him everything. He's giving you every answer.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, those 34 days, man, I learned more in those 34 days offshore than I did the previous like 6, 7, 8 months, whatever it was. In a shop, looking at drawings in a classroom, those type of things. You read
books, and you don't. I mean, you have to. I was at Noble for about 5 years before I started working offshore, and it was one of those things like, you read the books, you hear the stories, you read the reports. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't click until your hands are on the equipment.
No, 100%. And so another kind of, when I was in the fishing product line, I remember the first job I went on was like this. I don't even remember the guy's name, and he was probably in his like early 60s, fishing guy. But he clearly did not want me to be there on location with me and show me anything. Like, he's the type of guy you had to ask him every question in the right way to get an answer out of him. And he knew I was just there to learn, but I don't know if he was there, thinking that I was trying to take his job or be a fishing guy, because I was never going to be a fishing hand. Versus when I went offshore with this new technology stuff, I had a great guy that spent those 34 days with me and just basically told me everything, and it was great. A guy by the name of Randy Hutchins, I definitely want to give him a shout out. Super great. Field mentor.
Yeah.
And like I said, in those 34 days, I learned enough that I was like, it was more than being dangerous. I say enough to be dangerous was more than that. Whenever I got back on land, talking to people,
you knew what you were talking about. You knew what you were talking about.
Yeah, talking to customers and things like that. So that was really, really key, instrumental for kind of learning kind of how offshore wells are drilled and
Yeah.
those types of things, and kind of just leverage that. And you know, I ended up staying in that product line for several years. And
Were you still doing offshore hitches?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, no. So yes, here and there. It was more after that. It was more just like, hey, we're shorthanded. Can you run out and run a job?
Yeah.
And then I'd do it. So then it maybe be like once a quarter at best, or twice a year or something like that, which is okay by me, you know. But I ended up, ended up making it to what they call the global product line. So we actually covered. I was involved with pretty much every job with this particular product line that was going around the world in some capacity, whether it was like giving some technical advice or whether it was sitting in on a technical sales call or whatever, which also meant I traveled a good bit. And
So where'd you go when you traveled for this?
so I mean, many places. I mean, I've been to Rio, Brazil, so Australia, Russia. Went to Sakhalin Island
Okay.
for that. So I kind of became like one of the few people within the company that was kind of like an SME for the product line. So,
Yeah.
so I was involved in a lot of discussions and out training people, helping people set up a shop to handle these tools. I mean, if you think about,
And how old were you doing this?
oh man, I guess I was, let's see, like 28 or so, 27, 28.
That's so cool, being
Yeah,
28
yeah.
years old, and you got to travel here, you got to travel
Yeah.
here, you got to go to Russia, you got to go to Brazil, wherever that is, and you're also helping set up. That's such a cool experience.
Yeah, it really was. You learned a lot, and I mean, and definitely I was kind of lucky and kind of got into this path. But I think what really kind of helped me is I wanted to know everything about kind of downhole, what was going on, and how these jobs worked. I mean, it literally was kind of learn trial by fire. You kind of figure it out as you go, and each bad conversation you have, I say bad conversation you have, but each conversation you have with a customer that doesn't go so well, the next one gets better because you know all these things, and so. So that's really kind of how I got there.
So were you being vocal about kind of your goal or your thirst for knowledge, and that's what kind of propelled you to kind of take this global position?
I wouldn't, honestly, I wouldn't say it was like that vocal. It wasn't like, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. It was just more like, I mean, it was a small team within the company of just, less than a dozen people.
Right.
And so it was just a matter of who was doing things, and, if you could help out, then you would help out. Like it was like a small, almost like a small startup within a big company.
Yeah.
So it was really kind of afforded opportunities like that. So they just kind of came about, and whoever was the first person to say, I'll do it, or I can do that, it just kind of how it went. Everybody
Okay.
worked together really well. So I wouldn't say it was vocal with my boss and say, hey, you go, I want to do all these things. It was just kind of, hey, we need to get
There was a need.
we need to get things done. Right?
There was a need, and there was a work ethic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that for several years and really enjoyed it. Went a lot of different places. Really got to learn the difference, between how international oilfield works versus U.S. and so that was kind of key.
Well, what are let's talk about that.
I mean, the big thing is just kind of how tenders and contracts are done internationally, and how you bid for those, and all the qualifications and all that, which is good and bad, right? So if you get one of those contracts, you can kind of plan your business, you can plan the personnel, you can plan the equipment, you can do all these things.
Right.
Versus on U.S. land, you might get a pricing contract sometimes, and that means you're locked in on certain prices and how they're going to use you, but doesn't mean you're going to get the next well, or doesn't mean you're going to do the X amount of work. So it's really a lot different, and you have to manage the people differently too. A lot of those international projects had like all these different layers, and a lot very procurement driven. So those are really two different things.
Yeah, over here it's more of a Wild West. It's more not Wild West in a bad way, but more like, hey, you got this job, you got this well. The next well we're using this company.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just kind of opportunistic here too. It's like, hey, do you have this equipment on the shelf? Okay, let's go. That doesn't really happen on the international side. Now, the downside of the international side is like some of these contracts are 3-5 years, and it doesn't matter how good your technology is or whatever. You got to wait till that contract's up until you do something. So that's kind of the downside of that. So there's pros and cons of each. From oil field service perspective, I guess the good thing is from the international perspective, you can plan your business a lot better with people and equipment,
Versus over here.
here. So it's a lot more difficult to do that. Yeah.
Okay, so you did that for a couple of years.
Yeah. And kind of towards the end, we were kind of coming out of the 2014, 2016 downturn, and my product line kind of got gobbled up within the company by a bigger product line, and really just kind of got lost in the fray within a big organization and just didn't have that appeal anymore. So I decided to make a move, and I left and went to Neighbors Drilling.
So this is the first move, company move you made in your career.
Yes. Yeah. And I went from like offshore international to U.S. land. So that was a big change.
Different
trying to figure
pace.
that different pace.
I remember going from offshore, Gulf of Mexico to land. It's a extremely different pace.
It really is. I mean, you think about like, say, Gulf of Mexico. I mean, there was a well when I was doing the Gulf of Mexico that made a 1-year anniversary. The well took over a year to drill, versus onshore. They're
Down 7 days.
Yeah. They're doing things so quick, and it's very logistics focused and very time, like according to a lot of different accelerated timelines. So different pace for sure, which is good, and I liked it when I still like it now, but I liked it whenever I jumped in because it was like, man, you're seeing all these different things happen, different pads here, different basins, all this stuff. So it was really good moving over to Neighbors, and then I started, I was on the rig side, so I was a global account manager, so I was looking after a few strategic accounts and managing rig contracts for them. So I don't know. You've probably seen this at Noble, but if anybody's in oilfield sales, I highly recommend them if they haven't done it, but do a stint with a rig contractor. It's completely, I wouldn't say completely different, but it's a different oilfield sales job on many different levels.
So how's that learning experience for you? I mean, you're doing this global account manager, then you hop on to land rigs, land rigs, and again, it's you were again a global account manager. Mm-hmm. So you were international again.
So the way technically no, they call it global account because it's more like strategic account manager. So accounts that had a global presence, but you focus on their U.S.
Gotcha.
business.
Okay, gotcha.
And maybe you might get involved with something internationally, but you usually hand it off to a country, whatever country that was. So it was U.S. focused, but it was the major players and strategic accounts, and it was managing from kind of a top level. Making sure everything's moving well, make sure contracts in order, negotiating rig rates and things like that. And that's kind of why, going from like oilfield, tools like service to rig contractors, it was a lot different, right?
Do you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it. So two things. One, whenever you're selling downhole tools or anything like that, you're hustling, doing breakfast runs, just trying to get in front of people and all that. But whenever you're selling drilling rigs, I mean,
they call you.
Well, sometimes, yeah, a lot of times they do that. But you can text a drilling manager and he's calling you back in 5 minutes. Like it's totally different, right? And I wasn't used to that at all. I'm just, I remember the first time I called a drilling manager and he said, "Hey, I'll call you back," and text me back, "Call you back in 5 minutes." I'm like, man, who am I, right? Like, how's it? What planet am I on? Like, that never happened when you're selling directional, you're selling downhole tools.
I don't think it happens when you're selling anything in the drilling side besides drilling rigs.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you didn't have to do the breakfast runs. I mean, you're literally have a meeting and you're walking past all the guys in the break room and going in, meeting with the drilling manager or a VP of drilling. So it was a different experience from that standpoint. And then the negotiation, and people say like you're negotiating like downhole tools and all those things, which you do to a certain extent, but I didn't know what negotiation was until I started negotiating rig rates. I mean, it was a totally different level.
Why was it a different level?
Well, I mean, most of the time if you're selling, whether it's bits or directional or anything downhole, a lot of times negotiation is, hey, what kind of discount can you give him?
Yeah.
That's not really negotiating. It's like, okay, yeah, we can do 5% here, 10%
How
here.
sharp can you make a pencil?
Yeah. But sometimes depending on the market for rigs, it's the other way. It's like, well, we can't do that, but we can do this rate. But it was you were kind of negotiating the other way, and you kind of had, depending on what the market is, you had a little bit of a leverage, right? So those are true negotiations. They call it consultative negotiation. So it's a back and forth. You want it to be a win-win, of course. But it was totally different negotiations, and I really learned how to really negotiate.
But how? I mean, so learning that whole negotiated practice and all that stuff. I mean, was that something that you kind of shadow someone with, or they train you up on that?
They did a good job, like some legit classroom training on negotiations. So I mean, when I was at Weatherford, they did a little bit of it, but I think they kind of used some of the same practices like procurement guys on the other side of the table, they go to multiple or at least one negotiation training like a year. And so when I was at Neighbors, we were kind of doing the same thing, so it's kind of both sides are getting trained to negotiate. So it was good. I mean, I've used some of these negotiation tactics like when I'm buying a car and all kinds of things, right? And so that was a really fun job. I really enjoyed what I was doing there. I really enjoyed that kind of that change. And then of course going from offshore to U.S. land was exciting, and the pace as well.
Pace is fun.
Yeah. And then from there, I left and went to Vertice Oil Tools. So we're a startup completion tools company, and for me the attractiveness was going to a smaller company. I've never been in a small company, a startup, especially. Always kind of been in big corporate organizations. So that was attractive.
Well, that's a pretty big career change. I mean, you're in a situation where general managers call you back. You're in a situation where you're taking the meetings, the breakfast runs that people they're trying to see, right? And not only that, is that you or me?
That's me. Actually.
And then not only that, then you go from a drilling rig contractor to a startup, back to tools. So tell me about what was the main, I guess, driver motivation behind that?
Well, there was a few things. I mean, so when I was at Weatherford, I was very focused on new technology, kind of rolling out new products to the market. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Kind of enjoyed taking something like working with R&D development and developing the product, and then deploying it in the field, getting like market adoption, those type of things. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, of new technology. And Neighbors had all the new technology world, but from a global account perspective, I enjoyed that job. But the draw to come to Vertice it was a smaller company, a startup, so you can kind of make things happen pretty quickly. And then kind of going back to my new technology roots of how you're going to position products and get them out to the market. So it's kind of like going back to what I was doing before, but a smaller company that you can kind of be nimble and do a lot of different things. And I also felt like it was a good time in my career to make a change from big corporate. Neighbors wasn't a job I really wanted to leave, but this opportunity that came about, and this group of guys that I'm working with now was a good one, and something that I wanted to try and not pass up.
Right. So tell me about you went from a global accounts manager, so now you're director of sales and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you're actually using what your degree taught you.
Right.
Kind of like it's been 15 years and I can finally use what my degree taught me here.
Yeah.
So how's that? I mean, I guess how's that been for you? I guess going from more of a negotiation drilling rig thing to more of the director of sales and marketing. I mean, managing a team, developing content. Talk to me about your kind of your role when you jumped over to Vertice.
Yeah, so the big thing when I jumped over to Houston, we didn't have any operations going on. We just had some tools that were designed. So it was,
so this was startup.
Yeah, this is startup. We didn't our first tool in the ground wasn't until May of 2019. So before that was kind of trying to strategize like which products are we going to roll out first. What's the market look like for these things? So it was very, very strategic at first. And of course, I'm really big on customer meetings that aren't necessarily early on, that aren't necessarily sales meetings. Like, hey, we have this idea. I want to get your feedback. Will this work? Won't this work? What do you hate about it? Those type of things. So I was having a lot of those meetings, trying to figure out like what the product market fit, if you will, of a lot of our products and how we're going to, dedicate engineering resources to roll out certain products. So a lot of that was kind of what I was doing, not so much just picking up the phone and see if somebody wants to buy something, because at that point we didn't have anything to ready yet to sell, and it wasn't until I guess 7-8 months until the roll till we were ready to start deploying something to the field, and then it you still kind of had a little bit of that, like you always, in a small company, especially like our size, we want to make sure we're kind of ahead of the curve and not behind it, whether it's a new tool or how people are completing wells or changing their completion designs or what they're doing different. So we kind of, you want to keep those type of conversations going on to stay ahead of it versus, just doing what everybody else is doing, and then you're lagging, when there's a change or
So is
something
that is that how you find out your information pretty much having these conversations, or is there any like industry papers or anything like that, or is it more just your relationships with the end user?
Yeah. So I mean, of course, you use whatever kind of resources you can find, but most of them were kind of relationship, sitting down with an engineer and be like, hey, just give me honest feedback. Will this work or won't this work? So it was more reaching out to end users and trying to figure out those things.
That's gotta be such a fun job though, like going from an established rig contractor to a startup, and you're not only just going out there, okay, I want to sell this new, but you're trying to design and build, I guess, the strategy of this company, and then what works, what doesn't work, and that's good that you guys are meeting with the customers. That way, you're finding out if it's actual something they want to use versus not.
Yeah.
Something, a shiny new widget.
And I seen it many times at service companies where they have a product or a project that they're trying to build something, and by the time they roll it out, maybe a couple of years down the road, because the kind of the cycle for R&D is a lot longer at some companies. Maybe the market's changed a little bit, and if they're not having this conversation along the way, you're going to roll out something that maybe only 20% of the market needs, or maybe
before is a larger share.
Yeah. I mean, things change. The U.S. land completions, especially drilling, things change very quickly of what people will have a preference for, what works, what doesn't work. So I mean, it's you have to keep up with it. I mean, and that's kind of what a small startup kind of affords you to do is, if we hear about a customer wants to try to do this, and we can kind of have a quick meeting and sit and talk about, say, hey, can we do something like this, and what's the market potentially look like, and just through a few conversations we can pull the trigger really quick and say, hey, this is a product we want to design or build or whatever. So versus I've been involved with other ones that sometimes it takes just 2-3 months just to get the right people in the room to talk about the application and see if we can do it.
And then they bitch about how come we haven't executed. It's like, well, it took you 3 months to get to this meeting, buddy.
Yeah. No, exactly. So that was kind of the draw to move to a small company is to be nimble and kind of use the engineering horsepower that you have available to kind of make things happen pretty quickly.
So with things changing so quick on the completion side, and we're going to bring it kind of the current market right now, with things changing so fast on the completion side, you just said, and you need to know what's going on. You need to have your finger on the pulse. Otherwise, just repeating what you said, you're going to be behind the curve, right? So during times like this, and again, this is March 2nd, which so it's a year long since shit hit the fan and industry just kind of shut down, and you're seeing remnants of it picking back up now.
Yeah.
How do you engage and keep those crucial conversations happening with your customers when, number one, activity has dropped tremendously, number two, it's difficult to actually get in front of people, and number three, sometimes people don't like talking right now just because they don't know. So I mean, how have you been navigating that and still getting the relevant information from the industry?
Yeah, it's been challenging for sure. I mean, definitely the most challenging kind of time in my career is staying relevant, staying in front of customers. Because depending on everybody's situation, some guys have multiple kids at home and they can't answer the phone, they can't get the emails, they got more high priority stuff, and so it's really hard to get them on the phone or even get them for lunch or coffee or whatever. So I mean, you do what you can there and just kind of stay on top of people, but one of the big things that I've done is just also leveraging other industry contracts, so other salespeople, maybe not even salespeople, other people in other service companies, organizations, and they are in certain conversations, and they can drop your name or drop your company and say, hey, you should check out these guys, and then they can help connect you. So it's really kind of like networking on a much kind of bigger scale, and rely on those folks to kind of feed you some info or drop your name here, and then vice versa. I'm doing the same for other people I know. When I hear about stuff, it's kind of leveraging those connections, even if it's not necessarily operator contacts or something like that. It's just you kind of have to do that in these times, and just kind of stay connected with everybody as best you can.
I completely agree. I think a lot of times people, they talk, and we talked about this before around the Rotary. A lot of times people are like, oh, work your network, and a lot of people think your network is your customers or the end user of the product that you sell, and that's not necessarily true. To me, your network is. I mean, I find you get more information or data, or you hear more whenever you're talking to your sales buddy. So I think it's important to have a tight knit group of salespeople, and whether they're selling the same service or many different services, and just kind of you start picking each other's brains and going from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not just your customer network; it's also your fellow peer
Yeah,
network.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the guys that I stay connected with, he's like the biggest direct competitor you can imagine for my company, and we talk back and forth. I mean, we're not sharing anything, anything proprietary between our two companies, but we're just, we know a lot of the same customers, a lot of the same people, and we just kind of just share industry.
If you can't
info.
get it, you rather them get it.
Yeah, of course.
I'm saying, same way.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been good, and from that standpoint, just staying connected as best you can.
So are people willing to? Have you seen people kind of recently start being more willing to engage in conversations or meeting up for coffee or taking meetings recently?
Yeah, I think it's still tough to actually get a face-to-face meeting like in an office, but like people are more open to go out to coffee or lunch. Or I've met a couple guys like downstairs in their lobby because their company has rules. You can't bring third parties up and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely gotten better, and I think it also helps activities kind of come back. So there's also a need to meet as well. So it's improving for sure.
I do think. I mean, what do you think about? I mean, people always want to go back to how it was and all this. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't see it going back to the way it was. I really don't. I mean, whether the vaccine's here, whether I don't think you're gonna have as many companies that require people to be sitting in their office, which is going to create another challenge. I don't think the breakfast runs, I think, are going to be few and far between. Yeah, and the ones that do open up, that's going to be a hot spot.
Yeah.
Those are going to be places to avoid.
Yeah, everybody's going to be bringing breakfast and going, right? Yeah. No, I agree. Maybe a couple of years down the road, it might get back to that, but it's kind of hard to see it right now. I think it'll be different for sure.
Do you want it to get back to the way it was?
I mean, I think I wanted to go back the way it was, where they don't have any reservations about having a face-to-face meeting. I like the breakfast runs and all that, but if that doesn't come back, I mean, I'm not gonna kind of cry about it or anything like that. But I do think I do want it to come back to where people are just open with meeting face-to-face.
Sitting in the same room.
Sitting in the same room, and there's no reservation about, do I shake hands, do I fist bump, do I do this, all those kind of awkward things. So yes and no. I kind of want to go back, but it doesn't have to be the exact same.
I just don't see it going back. I mean, that's the thing. Back in May and June, people, once things get back to normal, and now we're kind of sitting here. It's like, I don't. The people say new normal, which I hate that term, but that's kind of where we're at right now. Sure. It's just the current state of affairs where we're at.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like the new normal either, but it'll be different.
It'll be different. I think so. So what? So since your role. So talking about, I guess, your role since COVID hit and all that stuff, and we talked about this previously before we started recording. Before being the marketing guy, that you're kind of over the social media. I mean, so how do you see social media and LinkedIn being more crucial these days, selling wise, not just networking wise, right, but on the business side of things? Do you see that more being crucial these days than what it was before?
Yeah, I do. I mean, just kind of if you get on, like, LinkedIn's the main one. I mean, we have a company Twitter and those type of things, but to be honest, I haven't put anything there. But LinkedIn.
I try to use Twitter. I try to use Twitter. Like, I have an account. I tried using it probably like 2 weeks ago. I just don't get it. Yeah. And it's not that I don't get it. It's like, you just send a tweet. No, I get it. Yeah. I just don't know how to engage.
Right. So we mainly kind of look at LinkedIn, and just from when I get on there and look at things, I feel like people that weren't on it before are kind of now on it, or people that are commenting or engaging. So
Jason Wade just got on it.
Really?
Yes. Wow. Yeah, which is to me, that's mind blowing. Jason Wade? Okay, no, I thought you did.
I thought you were talking about somebody else, but I don't think.
But you're seeing people get on it these days that previously weren't.
I mean, it's like you see people like starting to post more stuff and things like that. So I think kind of during especially during the heart of quarantine and all that stuff, like people were going there to kind of catch up on things, so they weren't seeing people, they weren't talking to people. So it's been important. we've increased kind of our engagement on there and try to do some things. I manage it, so if anybody's listening to this and thinks it's not good, you can
give me some pointers.
Yeah, give me some pointers, or send me an email and tell me how bad it is. But I do the best as kind of like, it's not my full-time job to manage a social media account, but I do I do what I can, and I feel like if it's an afterthought, you're probably not going to do it that great. So I try to spend more time on it, but it's tough, whenever you have all this other stuff going on,
I know it wasn't a focal point, but now it's kind of is, but you don't want it to be. Yeah, that's kind of how I'm at too. Talk to me about you mentioned 2014. Did you make a shift 2014 in your career? You and I had a conversation about the difference between 2014 downturn, 2014, 2015, and kind of what we just got hit. And you had some very interesting points that I didn't think of. So talk to me about the 2014 downturn versus 2020.
Yeah, so I think they look similar, but the kind of the timing is different. It's changed. So in 2014, with the oil price crash and all that, you saw some downsizing in companies. You saw things, kind of people activity slowing down, all that stuff. And it was like the first maybe year or two, so like 2014 to maybe like 16, I thought, where people were just more focused on, how do we get the lowest cost. I was involved with new technology, so I was dealing with a lot of customers that never tried, something that we were offering. And so a lot of people didn't really want to, kind of really stretch their neck out to try something new, because they were, people were worried about their jobs, worried about being laid off. So they
if you stuck your head up, you had a target.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the things people use what wasn't, if they had an issue, it wasn't going to get them fired, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of, I felt, right after the downturn, that was happening for maybe the first year or two, and then you saw a shift to where people and companies started to realize, well, if we want to, survive, and we want to, make money and be profitable as a company, we need to embrace some of this technology. So you kind of saw that starting to happen in 2016, 2017, 2018, all that, and people starting to want to adopt new technology and try new things. Still, it's the old field, so we're kind of late to adopt a lot of technology in general, but you kind of saw that happening, and it was kind of a little bit out of necessity, where people needed those technologies to make things work. And then, for this one, I think it's kind of following a similar kind of trend, but a much accelerated. First couple 6 months, people are like, well, I'm just going to stick with what I know. Let's make sure things are going smoothly operationally, but you're kind of starting to see people kind of think and talk about new technology and stuff like that. And of course, it's still low cost in mind as well. But I think similar things happening, but it's just a much shorter cycle.
It's definitely accelerated
this time. It's kind of how I feel.
That's a good point. I remember 2014, 2015. I mean, it was very price focused. It doesn't matter if you had a relationship for 5-10 years with someone. They were going with lowest price just because that was driving them. I mean, that was from their management driving them. Low cost, low cost, low cost, low cost. And at the end of the day, you can argue, it's like, first off, I don't understand how this guy can stay in business, or this company can stay in business operating it that way, because I know my costs, and I guarantee they don't have those costs. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of kind of like stepping on each other's toes, I felt like, during 2014, 2015, between service companies and all that. And then the relationships kind of went to the side, and it was all cost. And then you're right, this kind of started building up, and you are seeing a huge push in technology these days. I mean, you're seeing new technology companies, easier way to source stuff, easier different ways to kind of do previous, obviously with new technology, but you're seeing a huge acceleration in that and data analytics and stuff like that.
Yeah, the data analytics is obviously a buzzword right now. People are definitely looking at that. And
I felt that was hotter about 3 months ago.
Yeah, probably so. But it probably also has to do, the industry is kind of getting younger, if you will. So that kind of, especially people coming out of school now are kind of focus more on kind of the data analytics and those type of things. So.
Yeah. No, that is true. So what else is going on, man? We're coming up on about 45 minutes right here. What are you excited about kind of in our industry? What's coming up?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to, kind of get to a consistent place and kind of where things are stable, whether it's oil price, whether it's politics, all those things. Just get to a place where people can kind of feel comfortable with what the outlook, the world and the outlook, and whether it's like, once the vaccine's here and everybody's kind of open up. I mean, I do feel like people are going to start getting out and traveling and doing all those things. So it could be very exciting.
A nice little jolt for not only people's sanity but also our industry.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think I want, it'd be good to get to that. I'm excited to get to that point, and that's going to help kind of the oil and gas industry, help people kind of, feel more comfortable in what they're doing with operations and all that. So I'm excited about those things. Looking forward to it. I mean, I don't want to say the new normal, but I'm looking forward to getting to whatever that looks like,
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about what we're trying to do. We're a very nimble company, so we're rolling out like new stuff hopefully later this year, and just kind of growing an organization. We're still pretty small. It's only 9 of us now.
9, really?
Yeah, it's only 9 of us, and we got plans to grow later this year. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
So how are you going to handle the growth?
It's going to be tough. I mean, we got a couple of different strategies. I mean, we'll have to add some people at some point. Really, kind of in all the different phases. Engineering, kind of field level personnel. But we have to do it as
controlled growth.
Controlled growth for sure. Like, I mean, the thing is, we almost hired almost 2 people like February of last year, right before all this kind of went down, and it's a good thing that we did, and so we got lucky there. But you kind of have to. It's definitely controlled growth. For an oilfield service, it's really easy to ramp up personnel and just kind of get ahead of yourself a little bit. So we're looking forward to that. Probably later this year, kind of get that going. And with a startup, you also have to do it in a certain way that you kind of keep the startup culture. You kind of keep everybody gels, because a good organization of just a dozen people or less, just one bad apple can kind of sour the bunch.
You're right.
So that's the people management is going to be critical as things grow.
Do you see other oil service companies kind of reacting as they did previously, kind of ramping up too quick? I think, do you see there's still some shell shock or fear from 2020 with oilfield service company when they're actually bringing people on?
So it's hard to say, because I mean, I feel like any oilfield service company that I've been involved in, and others I know, I mean, you're always chasing that level of headcount, no matter what the industry looks like. And so I haven't seen, you do see stuff on LinkedIn and other places where, people are hiring rig crews and frac crews and stuff like that. So you see that. And I think that's just based on the need, because they got to bring out this rig or they got to do this. So in my opinion, I haven't seen it, but I'm kind of focused inward on people, so it's hard for me to say if I'm taking the best look at it. But it doesn't seem like they're going crazy hiring people, but you're kind of seeing some of it. But it's always, oilfield service is always a headcount game, making sure you're at the right level, because that can really eat up your profits if you're too much G&A. It's not like an operator that when activity goes down, they're still producing barrels, still making money. They can kind of pay for that G&A. Activity changes, you don't have that level of money coming in, so you have to adjust.
Quick decisions.
Yeah, you do, and that's really the tough thing about oilfield service in general, is just that G&A. How do you manage it? And
so talking about with such a I'm not gonna say small company, but just the small company, whatever. How are y'all looking to bring people on board? Is it skill set? Is it experience? Is it personality? Is it the fit? I mean, what's kind of be driving y'all's decision making about that, building your team?
Yeah, so I think it might sound cliche, but it's definitely not. It's definitely not how I look at it. But as far as being a cliche or anything, but for a small company, experience is great. You can always train somebody if they don't have the right experience, but it's really about kind of integrity and work ethic. especially if it's somebody for sales, you want somebody that is going to have the company's interest, and they're going to be honest and truthful. And if they're not, it can go south really quickly, especially in a small organization. So it's really, really the integrity piece first, the culture fit, and then are they going to work hard? And of course, you want them to check the boxes that they have good experience, they have good contacts, they have good relationships, all those things. Those are important too. But if if it's not like honesty, integrity, they're not gonna work out, no matter how good of a salesperson they are, how matter good a field person they are, whatever it is.
I completely agree, and especially in this day and age when everything is online, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram or Facebook and all that stuff, it's one of those things where it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, well, I wasn't working then. It's like, you're still representing the company, and if you're posting this type of stuff doesn't reflect. So it's one of those things you do kind of have to get the all-encompass person that does represent y'all on and off the clock.
Yeah.
And that's huge right now. A lot of people don't understand. It's like, well, I'm not working, I can post whatever I want. It's like, no, you really can't. Yeah. You shouldn't. I mean, you can, but you really shouldn't if you want to maintain a certain level of professionalism.
Yeah, no, exactly. And for us, if we hire someone, it takes a while to kind of get them up to speed, and then if we lose them, like that sets you back so much. So it's very important at our stage to hire the right people the first time, and not have to try it again later with someone else if it didn't work out. So that's just a challenge. I think any startup will probably tell you as well. Not just us.
Well, that's exciting that y'all got plans to grow, and then you got new stuff coming out. When's your new stuff coming out?
Well, I mean, we got a couple different things that are coming out. One maybe as soon as like the next 45 days or so. Right now we're focusing mainly on like frac plugs, and then we also got into a refrac market. So that's been really good for us. So we're kind of bolting on a few products that kind of complement those.
Yeah.
So that's been pretty exciting, and hopefully we'll have another tool. It's a toe sleeve out in the next probably 45 days or so. And then a different tool probably later in the year.
So there's a lot coming down the line then.
Yeah. And again, it's ever changing. It's trying to stay engaged with what the market needs are. Right. That's key. And maybe we come up with a new tool, or maybe we decide that, hey, we don't need to build this tool anymore, or whatever it is. So that's kind of constant. It's a constant conversation.
Yeah. It sounds kind of fun though, because you need to know what's going on. Otherwise, it's a wasted effort.
Yeah.
You have to have your finger in the pulse.
100%, man. 100%.
So that's awesome. You got anything you want to leave us with today, or any message out there to the listeners or audience or anything like that, whether it's oil field life or whatever?
Man, I know things are kind of tough. The world's kind of weird, and everybody's got their own kind of situation, their own thing going on there. Yeah. Their own life is. I've always followed the motto of just stay positive. One of the things, the biggest compliment you can give me is, and you wouldn't say it directly to me, but be good people. So just kind of think about your friends, your family, your brothers, those type of people, and just be good people and be positive. And hopefully this crazy past 12 months is just like an afterthought. Here in not too short of a time. So
it's been so peaks and valleys when it comes to like emotional fear based or whatever, news, political. It's been so intense for the past. Yeah. I mean, I know it's always intense, but for the past year, especially because you're glued in front of the TV or your computer or your phone, nothing else to do. It feels so charged up. And I agree. I can't wait till things kind of just settle down. Like people can focus on living life versus the other noise, the outside shit. So anyway, man, Alex, I appreciate you coming in, man. Be a good person. That's it. Be kind, be a good person. Look out for your friends and family, and be nice to strangers. But again, this is Alex Goodwin, the Director of Sales and Marketing for Vertice Oil Tools. I appreciate you coming in, man, and look forward to hearing about y'all's controlled growth, y'all's tools coming out, and just kind of stay in touch with everyone. And I look forward to it, man. So thanks for coming in. And I guess
thanks for having me, JP. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to kind of sit on your podcast. So thanks.
Well, thank you. All right. enough. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in to Around the Rotary. Again, this is Alex Goodwin. You can find him on LinkedIn. Shoot him a note, and we'll obviously link him when we post this. But again, thanks for listening to Around the Rotary, and we'll talk to everyone soon.